I'm with Kate Cobb, who's been writing some valuable articles for the Riviera Woman about career issues. But we want to talk about a couple of recent articles she's been writing about assertiveness and how to say no. The article you did for the Riviera Woman tells of a true story about a woman who had cooked full fried breakfasts for her husband, and she came to the conclusion she really didn't want to do that anymore. Now there was quite a surprising outcome in that story, because this is a true story.
Absolutely.
And what was the outcome and what lessons are going to be learned from that?
Well, the outcome was that when she did discuss the situation with her husband assertively, having practiced in our training to do that, which was quite difficult for her, but having discussed it with him, she found out that he didn't want to eat the fried breakfast either, but he'd been doing it to please her. She'd been cooking them to please him. So there was a complete misunderstanding. And if they'd not discussed it, if they'd not come to some resolution around it, because she said she would cook the fried breakfast at the weekend, but not every day. If they hadn't talked about it, then that could have led to all sorts of other resentments and difficulties within the relationship.
Do you think there are lessons to be learned in that case, then?
Absolutely. The lesson for me is about, as I said at the beginning, open, direct and clear communication is what assertiveness is about. And the more we can be open, direct and clear, then the more we can learn to understand other people better and to get what we want, but to get what we want in an assertive way.
And do you think women are more reluctant to show assertiveness?
I think, yes, I think you're right, because I believe that we are brought up, and even now when I'm working with women in their 20s and 30s, it still seems to be the same, that we're brought up to please other people, to support others, to be there for other people rather than for ourselves. So that's one aspect of it, and I think as well assertiveness is often confused with aggressiveness, and women don't want to be aggressive or to be seen to be aggressive, and there are actually very clear differences between the two. Being assertive means listening to the other person and having respect for the other person as well, and acknowledging that they have rights in the situation. They might be legal rights, they might just be moral rights if you like, but that the other person has some say in the matter as well. Whereas if you were being really aggressive and you wanted to achieve your outcome at all costs, then you wouldn't care what the other person thought or felt or what opinion they had. You would just really railroad them through to a conclusion. Assertiveness isn't about that. It is about being clear, it is about being direct, but doing it in a way that also takes into account what the other person is thinking and feeling.
It's kind of having character skills, I would have thought.
Yes, absolutely, yes. I mean, they are clear skills, but that to me is the big difference, that you're taking into account the other person as well, as an equal human being, if you like.
Much in the same way, you also went on to write the next article, and the title itself says, "Nice Girls Don't Say No." And just to clarify that women in general don't like to say no, what are the main fears about? And there must be fears that we don't like to say no.
Absolutely. I think the main fear is if I say no, then this person isn't going to like me. It sounds rather childlike, but I think that's a major one. Or they will reject us, because we're brought up to be supportive of others and to be there for other people. No is not part of our vocabulary.
So how do we change that?
Well, we use the assertive skills of saying no, which is actually to use the word no in part of the dialogue. This, I think, was in the article that I wrote.
Right.
Rather than say, "I'm sorry I can't," or "I'm not sure that I'll be able to," and dress it up in a way that we think is very nice, but what happens is the other person becomes totally confused. Whereas you can use the word no. It's a little word, but it's quite a difficult thing for many women to say. You can still be polite, you can still be open up then a discussion with them about how they feel about what you're saying. It doesn't need to be aggressive, it doesn't need to be impolite, but we need to use the actual word no. And we need to be very clear. We need to be very clear about what we're saying and what we want in the situation.
It was quite interesting you saying about the other person being confused as a result of not saying a clear off no or being assertive. Is that something that people can take advantage of?
Yes, they can, absolutely. They absolutely can. One of the things that we tend to do because we're trying to soften the blow is to give excuses or give reasons why we can't do something. Often they're excuses. And the other person, if they want to manipulate us, either consciously or unconsciously, can try to help us find a way around those excuses. So if I can give you an example, because it's probably clearer.
Yes.
If you ask me to babysit for you on Wednesday nights, for example, clear one there, often happens, and I don't want to, but I've babysat for you before, so your expectation is I'll say yes. If I don't say to you straight away, no, Anna, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to babysit for you, and I can do that in quite a nice way, I think. If I say, well, I'm not sure, well, I don't know whether I'll be able to, I really don't know.
Allows the other person to...
You can come in and say, well, okay, well, what's the problem? And then I can invent something. I can say I have to take my daughter to the doctors. And then you can say to me, well, if you come and babysit for me, I know your daughter trusts me, let me take her to the doctors, then everybody will be happy. And the whole thing goes on from there. What am I going to say then? If you found a way to help me through my excuses, then it puts me in a difficult position.
Hence the misunderstandings.
Absolutely.
But taking like we said, it's such a powerful word. It's 2 letters, and yet it has such strength and power. Saying no in the workplace.
Right.
And it could be a case of standing up for your rights. But that's a tricky one.
Yes, absolutely. A very good point. In the workplace, obviously, you're into all sorts of power relationships and hierarchies. If you're saying no to your manager, for example, your manager, in all hierarchies, the manager has more power than the person working for them. So to say no, however nicely you do it, however assertively you do it, it may not be appropriate to do so. And that's where everybody needs to judge how they're going to behave in a certain situation. Another thing, just as a side issue, assertiveness is about having choice. It's about being aware of your behaviour and how you communicate. And there may be times when you choose not to be assertive, which in a strange way is being assertive in itself. But it's about awareness. Now, in a working situation, if, again, I'll take an example, if your boss asks you to work late one night and you can do it, and you do it once, you might be quite happy to do that. Twice, you might be happy to do that. But if your boss continually asks you to work late, then you may feel that that's an issue which infringes on your own time, and maybe you mentioned rights at work. Of course, there are contracts at work, etc. But without going down that route, you may decide that saying no on that very evening, your boss says, I really need you to do this report, you're the only person who can finish it, I'm really counting on you, etc. That might not be the time to say no. But if it's something that habitually happens, then the way around that assertively would be arranged to see your boss at some point when the pressure isn't on either of you, and to actually go through assertively a conversation with that manager to express your feelings about how you feel about being asked to work late every Wednesday night, and then try to resolve the situation between you.
And what should we remember when you're saying no? Because there was something that you wrote, that when you're saying no, you're not actually saying no to a person, are you?
No, you are refusing the request, you are not rejecting the person. That's the great phrase from Anne Dixon's book, A Woman in Your Own Right, which I mentioned in the article. And it's really important to remember that if you're saying no, you are not rejecting the person, you are merely refusing a request.
I think much of all of this, being assertive, being able to say no, is about feeling good and positive about yourself. I want to thank you for your time, Kate, because I feel very assertive now.
Wonderful.
And thank you, and thank you for all your articles.
Pleasure.
Thank you.